Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thanks for joining us for our Tuesday update, recorded on June the 17th. Let's get into the forecast. High pressure rolling in at the moment. We do see a few showers in the east and some heavy showers up around the far north. In fact, some offshore thunderstorms, some of those moving in towards land over the next couple of days. But basically the airflow is going around a large high pressure system. That's why we're seeing frosty weather again around the South Island and colder weather generally right across New Zealand. The next cold front out here over the southeastern corner of Australia, sparking thunderstorms, rain and windy weather along with a cold change. And that is on its way towards New Zealand, but we've got the high in charge for now. So on the air pressure map, you can see that big high. That is the one producing the anticyclonic winds around the country. So that brings in the colder southeasterlies that you're experiencing along the eastern North Island. And if you're in the South Island, it's coming in as a north to northeasterly down the coastline. So that's the reason why we've got cold weather around a number of areas. The positive for some people is that the southeasterly flow brings in very sunny weather for those of you around places like Auckland and Waikato, Taranaki, which have had some very heavy rain lately. And of course, dry weather along the west coast with the high pressure system in charge. But there is that low coming out of Australia with the southerly, and that is coming towards us. So let's try and make sense of the frosty weather. The frosts are shrinking. Here we are tomorrow morning, Wednesday, in the purple frosty weather, starting to retreat a little bit from Southland, and certainly coastal areas not looking so frosty. And then we jump forward to Thursday morning. The areas I've circled show you where the frosts are retreating the most. So you're going to notice a bit of a westerly flow coming through. That just starts to gradually lift the temperatures up. Still frosty inland and could be still frosty here and there, even outside of the risk zone. And the North Island doesn't really change from both days. It's mostly around Central Plateau, maybe some parts of South Waikato. So noon Wednesday, the cold blue line remains. That means everything south of that line is polar airflows. So that's the reason why many of you are feeling this colder weather around the South Island and the eastern North Island. I mean, much of the North Island is colder at the moment, high pressure over us, clearer skies, lighter winds. And if you don't have that, you've got that colder airflow off the sea with a few showers in the east. As we jump through to Thursday, now you can see why the frost risk reduces. The blue line's still there over the lower South Island. Here comes the low out of Australia, and that produces that windier westerly. So windy nor'westers coming in for central areas from Christchurch up to about Hawke's Bay. That will lift up the temperatures for those of you in the east. Maybe not a huge amount, but noticeable. And then you've got showers here, maybe a few heavy falls around Taranaki as that front moves northwards, but it runs into the goggles of high pressure, and so as it does that, the front falls apart. So there won't be a huge amount of wet weather coming in for the top of New Zealand, and mild winds, really, relatively speaking. By noon Friday, the South Island under the polar airflow, so still cold for you. As we go into Matariki, you'll be seeing that southerly wind, or feeling that southerly wind. So cold weather, especially around Southland and Otago and the west coast. Not so great for stargazing at that with that setup. And for the western North Island, we've got showers coming off the Tasman Sea. Pretty dry though for those of you along the eastern side of New Zealand. In fact, for the eastern side of the country, pretty dry really for the next couple of weeks. Not a huge amount of rain. Most of it is westerly driven, where it normally would be for this time of the year. Could be a couple of heavy showers in there for the west, otherwise just the usual kind of weather that we get at this time of the year. So going through the long weekend properly, the polar airflow moves further up into the North Island, basically back to where we are at the moment. So no great changes. And that means, yes, for those of you in the east, another showery southeasterly, south to southeasterly wind coming through. But that's ahead of the next big high. So yes, we do still see a few showers in the western side of the North Island, mostly clearing though from the western side of the South Island. There might be a couple of showers, coastal Otago, Canterbury. It won't be very much, getting sort of lighter by the time we go into the weekend properly. And by Sunday, here's the next cold front coming through for Fiordland, Southwestland, Southland and Otago, all getting that change. And there may even be a dusting of snow on the mountains and ranges again. And the blue line lingers along the eastern North Island, which means it's a fairly cold weekend around many parts of the country. Not surprising when you think about the time of the year we're in. And then in comes the next big high pressure zone, high number 2, rolling through by the start of next week. I mean, you might start to feel it a wee bit on Sunday around the North Island. Certainly by Monday, the high is pushing in further. Now the South Island's chance to get it. But as the high comes in, The big anticyclonic flow around it means it scoops up another burst of colder airflow. So that goes right up to Auckland, Coromandel Peninsula on Monday. Could be quite beautiful and sunny though, just like we've got right now, today Tuesday. Next Monday looks similar. Showers in the east, sunniest weather in the west. Once again, the west coast is dry, Southland drying back out again after what looks like a bit of a showery weekend. And before I go, soil moisture maps at the moment. Hard to believe some places are drier than usual, but we do still have that. Basically from about Wanganui over to Napier and everyone in between. Drier than usual in that zone, and also parts of South Westland and coming into Otago. Also just a little bit drier than usual. Over the next couple of weeks, plenty of rain for the west coast. Some of that will spill over. But this area here in the lower North Island and the eastern side of the North Island, mostly around Hawke's Bay, Manawatu, those areas may not see as much rain, but there's a little bit coming through, especially on the Manawatu side. That's all from me. I'll see you again tomorrow, Wednesday, with our next update.